tears burn tracks across your face. Past pale blue eyes, crowded by cataracts, not quite perfect yet. We've said our goodbyes 1,000 times. Butterfly wings thumping softly on the window, paint humming, we're driving sideways, and wrinkles looking past the billboard signs. And you look lovely. Oh, 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 oh. You look beautiful to me. Oh, yeah, yeah. You look lovely. Oh, 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 oh.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Fiberista Files. Today is Saturday, May 14th, 2016. I'm your host Heather, also known as Butcher's Babe on Ravelry, and Fiberista Files on Twitter and Instagram. Instagram, Highland Handmades also has an account, but it's not doing a whole lot just yet. It's a placeholder until I figure out what I'm going to do. If you are new to the podcast, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, even better. You can find this podcast on iTunes, Internet Archive, YouTube, as well as the blog, which is thefibristafiles.com, and the shop is at shop.highlandhandmades.com. As you can tell, if you're a current viewer, you may have seen this room before, but not in a long time. I'm actually in my studio, which, I don't know if you can tell, is kind of a mess. Such is a creative life, right? I am elbow deep in prepping for Fiber Frolic, which is in Windsor, Maine on June 4th, 5th, and 6th, 4th and 5th, somewhere in those. It's the first full weekend in June. I can't remember if it's the 5th and 6th or the 4th and the 5th, but anyway, it's coming. Yay, and I'm excited. It's one of the favorite shows that I do all year, so I am hard at work on that. You can see that is silver maple sock that I am planning on dyeing today, as well as, wait, which way? This way? That right there, those three are green ash worsted, so that was stuff I had kicking around. So those are going to be dyed up today. My husband is actually napping, so once he's out of bed and has done the dishes, I can get started. For those of you who may know me, I am letting my gray grow out, and I'm finding it incredibly distracting from this angle. I used to use henna on my hair, and the henna is still in there, but I'm growing it out. But all of that gray is kind of making me nuts. So if you see me futzing with my hair, I'm sorry, but the struggle is real, y'all. Okay. I hope there's nothing on there that's not supposed to be on there. No, I think we're good. Okay. So, let's start with a week in review. I went to Maryland Sheep and Wool last week, so it was a week ago, and got some stuff and had some adventures. So I thought I'd update you with all that, and then I just put a shop update live a couple of hours ago, 2.5 hours ago, and I will show you what is in that update as well as give you some additional information. So let's get started, shall we? So, Maryland Sheep and Wool. This year, I was going with my friend Monica, her husband Joe, and my husband Paul. It is the second time that Monica and I have gone, but the first time the boys will have gone. They were both actually pretty excited about it. There are a lot of breweries in that area of West Friendship, Maryland, that they wanted to check out. They both homebrew, and they're big into the indie beer scene, so good. I wasn't entirely certain that the sheep were going to have the hold over them that they were going to have over me. That's okay. I love the sheep enough for all four of them. So, we were going to go to my parents on Thursday night and stay the night, and then Friday morning we were going to leave early. We're going to pick up Joe and Monica, and I'll head down in my van. Monica and her husband actually live the next, 4 miles from my parents' house, so it's incredibly convenient. Thursday morning, though, I get up from bed, and I was going to take Paul to work so that I could clean the van before we left, and I noticed the dog had thrown up on the floor, and that's not usually a huge deal, but it was full of little metal teeth. They're about this long, and they were all bent. There were about 24 in this wad of dog puking grass. What had happened was my dog had eaten a metal grill brush, or part of it, and had ingested those metal teeth. Now, It never fails when I'm about to leave the States. Some sort of calamity ensues. The fan breaks down, or my dad ends up in the ER, or something happens. So this was sort of par for the course. So I called that morning, and at 8 o'clock I made an appointment with the vet. They were able to see him quite quickly. My vet is amazing. And I was like, look, he's acting fine, but I don't want my dad, who's supposed to be taking care of him this weekend, to be responsible should something go really wrong. I also don't want him to be down in my dad's area and have him take him to the emergency vet and not have the emergency vet know the dog. So can you keep him and just make sure? They took x-rays and it was all through his intestine. It seemed to be passing okay, but you never know. And they offered to keep him. So he stayed at my vet's that weekend. So I drove to Bangor, or Hamden, which is like 65 minutes one way, dropped the dog off, had his food and everything, because he's allergic to wheat. And they promised to take good care of him. I trust my vet. She has saved the lives of all 3 of my animals at least once. So I left him and drove back. It was not ideal, but it was where he needed to be. So I de-stressed from that, finished cleaning the van, picked up Paul, and we headed south. It was a rather uneventful visit at my parents', except that my parents have been trying to sell my grandmother's property and their property for several years. They've decided that they are going to keep their part of the property and build a house there and sell my grandmother's portion. Now, my grandmother lives in a home. She can never come home again. She's too frail physically. But that's the house I was raised in. Like, yeah, I lived in my parents' trailer, but I was raised in my grandmother's house. And I'm more than a little sad to see it go. I totally accept that they have owned it for years and they have a right to do whatever they want with it. But whoever buys it's going to do something that's wrong with the property. Like, I'm going to spend the rest of my life never looking at my grandmother's house again. They are also paying in cash. So they're closing incredibly quickly. So they hope to close within the next week. So like 2 weeks from the time the people visited on a Saturday to the time that they're going to own the property. That is crazy to me. Like I said, I accept it. I'm pretty sad about it. But what can you do? Nothing. That's what you can do. They are going to be getting a great house with a lot of character. Things have slowly been making their way to my house from my grandmother's house, things that are important to me. Hold on, I'm going to swing this camera around. If you're car sick, don't look. This is the painting that hung in my grandmother's bedroom for a long time. So that's going to go in my bedroom. I also am going to be getting all of her dishes and her green dessert plates and the olive green giant Tupperware containers. I'm sorry, my color's a little off. It may warm up in a minute. Her giant green Tupperware containers that we always kept home-baked cookies in. Dog share cookies, which are chocolate no-bakes, chocolate chip cookies, sugar cookies, the whole gamut of grandmotherly cookie baking was seen inside this one green Tupperware container. And always was a heel of the loaf of bread in there to keep the cookies soft. I know I'm not the only person who grew up with that. I'm excited to have that on my kitchen counter when we build our new house. They will probably go into storage until we move, just because we have plates. And they don't fit in this crummy house. They belong in my next house where things will be intentional. And her plates are the white plates with the mustard colored like leaves and butterflies and tulips across the edges. If you've looked at Corelle ever, you know what they are. She's had them more than my whole life. Like, I've never not seen them in her house. So I'm excited about that, but sad that the house is going. So anyway, moving on before I get emotional. We met up with Monica and Joe about 7 o'clock, 15:15, and we hopped in the van, and we did decide to make it all in one day. Last year when Monica and I went, we broke up the drive half and half, and so with the 4 of us, we decided to do it all in one go. Paul actually drove the whole way down and the whole way back. Excuse me. I could have driven some of it, but I hate driving in intense traffic situations, and he's largely fine with it. He drives most of the places anyway, so I'm sorry, I'm a little overexposed right now. I'm not sure what's going on. I had it just right, too. Sorry, that's probably making you nauseous. I'll stop. I'll be ghosty. So, we made okay time until we got into, like, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and then we got stuck with an hour of bumper-to-bumper traffic. For no reason. There was no accident, there was no collision, there was no nothing, just no construction, just people crawl to a stop for no good reason. It's one of the best things about Maine is that almost never happens. Even on UMaine's graduation weekend, the traffic is not as bad as it is in other places. So, we made it probably about 9 o'clock. Joe had already called and told them that we were going to be a late check-in. And we were staying at the Turf Valley Resort, which is a golfing resort. But they have a shuttle for free that takes you to and from the the Howard County Fairgrounds. And that's really nice because they take you right to the gate. So you don't have to park. You don't have to worry about walking the entire length of the gigantic parking lot. You're just dropped off. And then you, supposedly, every hour on the hour, they were going to drop people off and pick people up. So we were just supposed to be at the front gate every hour on the hour or whenever we were ready to go, and they would pick us up. That turned out not to be the case. Turns out they would drop you off, but then when you wanted to come home or come back to the hotel, you had to call them, which they neglected to tell us. So they got a little bit of a nasty gram because I wasn't pissed. We stood there for like 45 minutes until one of us finally Googled the hotel phone number to call them and be like, we're waiting for the shuttle. We were here on time, don't know where it is. And they were like, oh, you're supposed to call. Well, that's not what the driver told us at 9 o'clock this morning. So blow it out your... Anyway. The next day was better. So that was all that. The room that we got this year was far superior to the room that we had last year. There goes my dog. Hold on. Sorry about that. Dog was barking at some poor little kid who just wanted bottles to go see the Red Sox. Okay, so anyway, Maryland. We got there Friday night. Friday night sleep is the first night in a hotel is always kind of iffy. We slept a little bit, but I was pretty excited. So we got up and had breakfast and took the shuttle to the Howard County Fairgrounds where Maryland Sheep and Wool is. Now, Monica and I, neither one of us needed anything. I don't care about Jenny the Potter mugs. I don't care about Miss Babs. Those are the two booths that are the most heavily stocked. And I don't mean stocked as an S-T-O-C-K. I mean stocked as an S-T-A-L-K. I just don't, that's just not my jam. So the only place I really ever want to make sure that I hit is Into the World because Chris and James are fantastic. And I wanted to hit up the fleece tent. And I wonder, well, okay, so I years ago won from a knitting contest a box of like a wool sampler, which had little bags of raw wool and all different sheep breeds. And one of the breeds that I had recently processed and was surprisingly in love with was Tunis. So Maryland Sheep Wool is a great place to find fleeces that you can't find other places because in Maine we have a limited breed availability. We have mostly Icelandic Shetland, Merino, Romney. There's a ton of Romney here. But we don't have any of the more rare or conservation breeds. So I did want a Tunis fleece. That was the only... Like, visit Into the World, get a Tunis fleece. That was it. That was my whole purpose in going. And Maryland Sheep Wool has a ton of vendors, so it was really kind of just look at all the things and see if anything appeals to me. I did purchase a few things. I'm going to show them to you now. I'm not going to show them to you in Grabby Hands because I don't know how available these shops are right now, so I'm just going to show you and you can be jealous. The first thing that I bought was Fiber Optic. This is one of her gradient yarns in 80/20 merino silk. I'll show it this way, in the Fire and Ice colorway. And all the dye law is 0216 Jackie. I don't know what that means. I'm sure Fiber Optic could tell you. But it goes from this sort of rusty red into more of a rust brown, regular brown, green, and then teal. You can't see that because of the glare. It's beautiful teal, and then ends in this brilliant blue. I really love Fiber Optic gradients for doing shawls and things. I've only spun one of her gradients so far, but that gradient, did I knit it up already? Maybe I haven't. I've spun one, and I have another one that is Shamrock, which is light to dark green, that I haven't yet spun. But I fell in love with this. And there's never a bad choice at fiber optic, but that was the one that really called to me. And Kimber, the dyer behind fiber optic, said that that's a new colorway, so that made me happy. Of course, I went to Into the World, because Into the World is magic. And I, confession, last year I bought a skein of yarn and the Captain Tight Pants fiber. I have not used either one in the year since the last Maryland, because I don't want to make the wrong thing. I don't want to screw up the spin, and I don't want to knit the wrong thing. So they're marinating in my stash until I find the right project. So I really don't need more Into the World, but I bought some because I love it. And I bought one of their kettle dyes. So this colorway is Hijinks in the, I'm going to butcher this, Bukavu sock, which is 460 yards of a 75-25 superwash BFL and nylon blend. I love BFL as a fiber to knit. I like it better than merino because it doesn't pill like merino. And I'm not sure you can even see how many colors this all is, but it's a ton of color, and I love it so, so much. And Chris and James were fantastic as always. They are pretty much the sweetest people I've ever met in my life. So humble and down to earth and encouraging. Chris is why I applied to Maryland Sheep Wool and Rhinebeck this year. I didn't get in, no fault of Chris and James, but Chris is the one who keeps telling me, no, do it because you should be here, and that makes me feel good. So thanks, Chris. The only other major fiber purchase I bought was a loop bullseye bump. And I don't normally buy loop bumps, not because I don't like them, but because I have this thing about getting an entire colorway on a bobbin. And loop bullseye bumps are often more than 4 ounces, and I have a hard time getting more than 4 ounces on my bobbin. This particular bat is 5 ounces, so it's possible I can get it on my Acreworks bobbin, but it's unlikely, and for some reason that just bugs me to have like 2 skeins, because it is a progressive colorway. You'll see what I mean. So this is Bumble, which is merino and tussle silk, so the same thing as fiber optic. And you can't tell, but that is a bright chartreuse green, charcoal, and sort of a natural fawn, almost a white, but not quite. So I may spin through the first charcoal section and then split the bobbin, because then at least I'd have 2 that do the same thing, because it goes fawn, chartreuse, and charcoal again. That one at least I think I could manage without being too anal about it. And if you've never seen a loop bump before, they're a center pole ball of fiber, and if you very gently tug on this, sometimes the first few feet is a little tricky, but it will, God, that's soft. It comes out, and then you don't ever have to split it or anything. You can just feed it from the center out. You could do it from the outside too, but I pull from the center because that's the way I like to do it. Loop is incidentally the first indie dyed fiber I ever purchased. When I first learned to spin, Loop was my very first Etsy purchase. I've been a fan of her shop and her colors for a long time. I don't always find Loop bumps that I like the colors of, but this one I did. And not a lot of people can wear chartreuse, but I can, even with the gray. And then the only other thing that we purchased, my husband purchased some metal hooks. I don't even know why. But we have some other similar hooks. These are hand forged, I believe. And they have a hole so you can put them on the wall. They're a little metal hook, like a coat hook. I don't know, maybe they'll go in the new house. Oh, actually, I do have one thing I want to show you. So, it's not here. Oh, it must still be in my backpack. I dyed a colorway for this year's Maryland Sheep and Wool poster cover art. The book, this is last year's book, but I can show you what I mean. So this is last year's book, and I dyed a skein of yarn that in these colors. You may have seen it if you follow me on Instagram because I've been knitting it a year late, but that's what happens. This year's book, which must still be packed away somewhere, is a little bit harder to pull the colors from. There was a yellow leaf, and then there was some like blue-green paint at the bottom. But the sheep were like pencil drawn, charcoal drawn, so they weren't any color. But I can show you what I did. You'll have to forgive me because it's down here. Give me 1 second. Okay, so this is the colorway that I dyed for the MDW or Bust 2016 colorway, and it's a little overexposed. That's more accurate. So it's like a mustardy golden yellow and then this greeny blue. And I dyed this on my poplar sock because the poplar sock has been discontinued and I only have just a few skeins. So I decided just to use them for special occasion stuff because I love the feel of it. It's 100% cultivated silk, 430 yards, but I'll never get it again. So it's not like I can really put it in the shop and have people order more. So both Monica and I got a skein of this. Lord knows it will probably be next year's Maryland sheep wool before I get a chance to knit it up. So that was day one. As I mentioned, we had to wait quite a long time for the shuttle to come pick us up, but then we finally got back. We went out to the White Oak Tavern Saturday night. White Oak Tavern is a place we found last year. They have an appetizer called the Bowl of Bacon. Kind of right up my alley. They actually get their own meat whole, and they do all the, they don't kill it, but they do all the cutting. It's not really butchering if they don't kill the animal, but they do all the cutting up and smoking and seasoning of the meat themselves. So they basically create their bacon in-house. And that's awesome. And their bacon is delicious. I don't remember what all we ordered. I know my husband got the burger. I had a salad, I think. But it was delicious. And the bowl of bacon, obviously. No, Paul got the salad. He got a chicken nugget salad. I don't remember what I got, honestly. It was just good. It was delicious. Everything I got was delicious all weekend. Then we went back to the hotel. Now, that was a Saturday night, and apparently there was a wedding. There's a lot of weddings at Turf Valley. But the wedding party was on our wing. And for hours and hours and hours, they were just running up and down the halls, talking out loud in the hallway, slamming doors. There was so much slamming of doors. Finally, at about 2 or 3 o'clock, I called down to the front desk, and I was like, can you please send somebody up here? Because they're loud, and they've been doing it for hours, and I need somebody to speak to them before I do. So they sent somebody up, and it quieted down after that, but it was horrible, horrible night's sleep. Apparently, right outside Joe Monica's room, one of the girls that was at that wedding was talking to her boyfriend about how she was, should break up with him. Monica said she was ready to open the door and tell her that she should, just so she'd go to bed. That's not a common experience to be with hotels, but, God, I was annoyed. But we called down to the desk, and it was taken care of. So we also figured out how to turn the air conditioning on so the fan was on all night, which was enough white noise that the next night we were able to sleep. So in addition, Saturday, to the few things that I purchased, I spent several hours in the fleece barns, sheep barns, because they have all the sheep there, and you get to pet them all. And I'm sure you will have already seen pictures in the beginning of this episode, and you will see pictures at the end of this episode of me loving on the sheep and all the sheep, because I took tons of sheep pictures because sheep are adorable. Fiber Frolic up here in Maine, they do have sheep, but you're not allowed to touch them. And that's basically the saddest thing, is to see sheep and hear sheep and not be able to touch them. There was one sheep that was getting clipped, either for show ring stuff or I don't know what, photos or something. And he had this bleat of a 50-year-old smoker who'd been smoking 2 packs a day for decades. His bleat was totally crazy. And I recorded some of that, and I'll put the video in at the end if I remember. I died laughing. Every time he made a noise, I just died. He was just the funniest sheep ever. So that was Saturday, and then Sunday we got up, had a nice breakfast, and then headed back for day 2. I don't think I bought anything on day 2. I bought the loop bump on day 2. I bought the loop on Sunday, the loop bat. But that was really pretty much it. I just liked walking around. I got to see my friends, hang out with them a little bit. I got to see Tiffany of Knitting at Tiffany's. I got to see Holly of the Sheepish podcast. If she ever records again, Holly. Who else did I see? Emily of Fibertown. It was nice to chat with her and catch up. Lisa Beamer of Fiber Nymph Dye Works, who's engaged. Congratulations, Lisa. I got to meet the man. He seemed nice, maybe a little overwhelmed. Nothing wrong with that. We'll introduce him to fiber world the right way. Who else did I see? Tons of people. I got to meet Looney Hiker. I got to meet Choco Cat. There was a lady who's in my club, and her name escapes me. I can see her Ravelry pin, but I can't see what it was on it. She's in my club, and she introduced herself. She's a lovely lady. A couple other people. It was a nice podcast for me. It was in a different spot this time. It wasn't in the glaring sun or in the freezing cold, so it was kind of nice. It was loud in there, but what do you expect when a bunch of knitters get together? Oh, I got to see Laura and Leslie of the Knit Girls. Can't forget them. I bumped into Leslie in the sheep barns while I was having my fingers chewed on by some Dorsets because one was unhappy that I was scratching his friend's cheeks and not his cheeks. There's enough for me to go around, boys. You don't need to share. So I had 2 hands double cheek scratching sheep. What can I say? Yep, Sunday was a little bit more relaxed. Sunday was the better of the days. It had been raining for quite a bit, and so Saturday was quite muddy and kind of cold. And then Sunday was brighter and sunnier, but I immediately got too much sun. And by about, 2 o'clock, I had to go back to the hotel. I developed a horrible headache and needed to go back to the hotel. Plus that on top of not sleeping. Like, I just went back to the hotel and took a nap, and then I felt much better. And Sunday night, we went out to Ellicott Mills Brewing Company, I think is what it was called. It was in downtown Ellicott City, and it was like a German-inspired brewery and restaurant. And I had, well, that was my husband, he just sneezed. Bless you! I had sweet chili Thai calamari. I was a little sweaty from the chili sauce, but it was totally worth it because it was so delicious. Everybody had good meals. We had some of the best food, best dinners around. It was really delicious. So that was fun. And then Monday morning we drove home. And that was pretty much it. We did make better time coming home than we did heading down, obviously, because as you head north, you get less traffic versus when you head south, you get more traffic. We got home about 8:30 at night on Monday night, and then pretty much went straight to bed because we were exhausted, and Paul had to work in the morning. Yep. So that was Maryland. That's a very long explanation of what I did at Maryland Sheep Wool, but I got to show you what I bought, so that was nice. So let's move on a little bit to knitting and spinning. My knitting is in the other room. I didn't bring it in. I have to go get it, so give me 1 second. Okay, so I brought my knitting, but I also brought the book from this year. So this is the book. You can see there's that gold mustard leaf and that blue-green stuff at the bottom. So that's what I use as inspiration to dye the yarn for this year. Okay, so I have one finished object, one half object, her hoe, and then one thing that is almost done and you haven't even seen it yet. So this is my finished object. It is the sockhead hat, which is a free pattern on Ravelry, and it is knit out of my Mountain Maple sock, which is a heavy fingering weight, 100% superwash BFL yarn, in a colorway, I think it's called Twee. I would have to look it up. It's dyed yellow and then over dyed in blue, so there's all these like aqua greens. This is for my friend Leanne, who requested it. This, I think, will make her eyes pop really, really well. She has these bright blue eyes. It needs to be blocked. It's a little stiff here at the top, but knit on US 2s. I use my 24-inch Chigu the angled fixed circs. They don't make this angle anymore, but I find it to be incredibly comfortable. But this is my sockhead hat needle. This is my third sock head hat, I think, that I've knit. I still have to give this to her, but I did show her a picture and she was quite impressed. So, yay, hat. So that's the thing that I finished. I really didn't have a whole lot to do. I was already in the decreases before I got in the car on my way to Maryland, so I made sure to finish that so that at least I could say I got something done. Then I have a hoe, which is the socks. I think I talked about these last week. I must have, because I put a progress keeper in. I'm knitting a pair of socks for the surgeon who is doing my hysterectomy in less than a month. No, a month and 3 days, almost. And this is the first sock finished. This is my sugar maple sock in the Eyes Always Watching colorway. And the progress keeper shows you that I was not quite at the heel. And I did the heel, which I do a wrap and turn heel. And then knit the length of the sock. It's not quite, but almost. It's pretty much the leg is as long as the foot minus the toe. I didn't want to make it too tall and have it like get tight over her calf. And this is knit in a plain 3x1 rib, so it's very stretchy. I think this will fit fine. There's plenty of stretch to it. And I did get his shoe size before I left after my last appointment, so they should hopefully fit. Yeah, so I can take that stitch keeper, the progress keeper off. Now, put that back in the bag. I have not yet cast on for sock number 2, basically because I have second sock syndrome. And because of the next project that I've been working on that I have found to be very potato chip knitting or addictive knitting, and it's going very quickly. This is the Martini Ben Brickless. It is knit out of my white maple sock in the MDSW or Bust colorway. It's the Maryland Sheep and Wool or Bust, which you can see is the colors that I showed you from last year's book. And the Brickless is essentially 6 repeats of a 3 pattern stitch. So there's 3 different patterns, and then you repeat those 3 patterns again 6 times. And then there's an additional 4th repeat of one of those patterns. It starts with this mesh and then has a garter section and then has a ribbed section. And I have gone all the way through, and I'm on the 6th section. So I'm starting the mesh portion of the 6th section. So I have this section to finish, the garter, the ribbing, and then one more of this mesh. I think I will have enough yarn. If I don't, I don't. I'm not going to worry too much about it. It's not a pattern that makes a picture, so it's not like you're going to have a half-done leaf or something that's going to look stupid. It's just going to end where it ends, and I'm not going to worry about it. But this is very quick. I've only been knitting this like a week, maybe. 2 weeks? 2 weeks. And that's, of course, off and on, which for me is pretty incredible timing. So that's riding around in my Firefly bag, which was made for me by my husband. The fabric's available on Spoonflower. You see Kaylee with a parasol, Jane, Mal, Book, Inara, River, her stupid brother. There's Wash. There's even a guy with the hands of blue in here somewhere. That's this guy. The hands of blue. It's pretty fantastic, and I love it very much. The sockhead hat's riding around in a Jessalou Princess Bride bag with characters that look almost identical, and the socks are riding around also in a bag, project bag by my husband, that was gifted out to attendees of the 2015 Highlands on the Fly retreat. The last thing I have to show you, you're not going to see any difference on this because I've only made a row pretty much. But I do have some progress on this made as far as the pattern goes. So this is the gradient shawl that I'm knitting for design work for the Penny Reed book project. And this is the right side. Yep. I'm in the 3rd lace section, or it's actually the 5th section if you count these transition rows as sections. So that's going on that, and then I have another one of those transition sections and the edging to do. But I was able to get the edging written up and sent to my test knitter, my friend Monica, who has done all the math for me, and she's the most amazing test knitter I've ever had in my life. I love her dearly. She's wonderful and quick and thorough, which is all I can ask for of a test knitter. For those of you who've been watching for a while, you may remember I knit this shawl once before, but I didn't do stitch counts, which is dumb when you're designing lace, because why? So I had to rewrite the pattern from scratch. Not fun. I don't recommend that. Don't do that. It's not fun. I also did release my applicable mittens pattern, which is the heavily cabled mittens. I actually released that right before the last podcast, but I forgot to mention it. So that's available as a download on Ravelry for $3, which is very reasonable. And those directions are both charted and written out. Okay, so spinning, I'm still spinning the camel silk. Really nothing to show you. It's exactly the same. I'm going to focus on that a little bit this week because I want to get it done because I have other things I would like to spin. Dye pots. That's for Grabby Hands. Dye pots, I do have some stuff to show you. I said at the top of the episode that I had just released an update. That update is made entirely of sparkle yarn. This is the new Ironwood Suck, which is 92% superwash merino and 8% silver lurex. Silver lurex is a continuous filament of sparkle of silver, and it's introduced in the plying process as one continuous thread so that you're not getting a lot of little like crazy tinsel-like pieces all over your knitting, but that the sparkle happens at regular intervals and is contained within the structure of the yarn, which is really nice. But it's intense amounts of sparkle. So let me show you. I'm going to go through these really quickly. They are all named after constellations. Most of these I don't know, and none of the constellations are zodiac signs because I didn't want to go there. But, in fact, I'm not entirely sure these are all in the Northern Hemisphere, so let me know if you know these at all. This is Sculptor, or Sculptor. It's a dark twilight blue. This is Pictor. Look up. It's a deep spruce green. That's more accurate. Aquila. You can't see the sparkle quite as well on this one because it's lighter. It's a little bit more subtle. It's a light aqua. Dorado. This is a deep wine. It looks black on your screen, but it's not. It's actually, you can kind of see the wine color in there. There are some sections that are almost black because it is take the dye so deeply, but you can see, especially up here, that there's some burgundy in there. It's mostly burgundy. This one is Tucana. It's kind of a rosy red. Where's the bright red? This one I love. Pavo. It's a true red. And these are all semi-solid. Auriga. It's a pumpkin orange. Cygnus, which my friend Crafty Pancakes enjoyed. It's a sea glass green. Sorry, my colors there. I've got to work on the color balance a little bit. This is another one of the subtler colors. Hydra, brilliant blue. It is that brilliant blue. Lyra, which is a bright leaf green. That's more accurate. And Boots, which I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's B-O-O-O with the 2 dots over it. E-S. His constellation was the Shepherd. No idea where that is. And again, that's a lighter sparkle. And there's one more in here. That's the dark gray one. Where's that? Pixis, which is a very dark charcoal gray. I did not try to make a complete black because not only is black yarn really difficult to knit in lace patterns because it's hard to see the stitches and read the stitches, but also because my black dyes do not take a lot. They don't strike very hard, and I hate rinsing out bucket after bucket of black dye. So that charcoal strikes a lot harder. Those skeins are all about 400 yards per skein, and they're done up in 2 skein dye lots. So it's about 800 yards if you want to do a bigger project. And they're in the same dial, obviously, they're dyed together. That's available right now in my shop at shop.islandhandmades.com. You can go there now and see all the colorways photographed better than this sort of awkward yellow ambient lighting is showing you. And I'll ship it right to you. I'm pretty excited about them. Okay, so I've got, that was dye pots, processes and growth. Let me show you the process. This has nothing to do with anything, except that, I wonder if I can show you one that's not, yeah, right here. I bought new paper clips for my bullet journal, and they're pig-shaped. Is that not the cutest thing that you've ever seen? I bought pigs. So it was a funny story how that happened. I got these on Amazon. So, Amazon has this thing called add-on items. They're things that they won't ship by themselves, but when you make an order, you can add them on and they'll get shipped together. Terrific. So I wanted bone-colored whiteout. I would call it bone out, but that would make me giggle. For my bullet journal, because my bullet journal pages are not white. They're like ecru. So it's $2.29 for a bottle of bone-colored whiteout. Terrific. Only it's an add-on item, so they won't ship it to you until you have $25 in your basket. And it has to be $25 of stuff shipped from Amazon. I had ordered some of those poly envelopes, but one of them wasn't shipping from Amazon, so I didn't have quite enough. So I had to order a little bit more in order to get the $25 minimum for the whiteout to ship. So I ordered these, just a couple bucks. The paper clips I have at the house are too loose for my bullet journal because the pages are too thin. So I wanted something a little bit smaller, and I could have bought plain ones, but what's the fun in that? So anyway, so I get to the checkout process, and they won't ship me the bone whiteout because they don't ship whiteout to a P.O. box. So I had to go through this whole process and ship the whiteout to my actual house via UPS. This is the most boneheaded cockamamie way of doing this. The whole point of them being an add-on item is that they don't get shipped by themselves. Everything else came United States Postal Service, except for the $2.29 whiteout, which came via UPS. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. I can't, well, maybe not ever in my life, at least this week. Like, it boggles my mind sometimes the way that logic doesn't happen in Amazon. Sorry, I just checking on my phone buzzed. Okay, so that's processes. I have bone-colored whiteout and pig-shaped paper clips in my bullet journal now. Look, your bullet journal should be something that's fun. If you don't want to deal with it every week, you're just going to leave it on the table and it's never going to get filled out, which is not going to help you. All right, so the next thing I have is growth, and I can share the first of the two things that I'm doing with Annie of Little Skein and the Big Wool. I am participating in Sock School, Summer 2016. This is the first inaugural knit-along with Little Skein, and it is, just like it says, Sock School. So there's two sock patterns, which is the Simple Toe Up by Susan B. Anderson, and the something Friends. You know what? I'm going to look that up because I don't want it to be wrong. Fierce Freckled Friend is what it's called, which is a pattern by Megan of the Stockinette Zombies podcast. Those are actually knee-highs, but mine aren't going to be knee-highs. So there's two patterns, Socks 101, which is beginner socks, and Socks 201, which are people who are familiar with socks and willing to try a little something different. Annie made these totes, which they're a little bit smaller. They're basically designed for a single skein of yarn, like a sock project. And this has a nice canvas bottom with a linen cotton blend top and a fully cotton interior and handles. It's the cutest little bag ever. And you can still buy this. You can still participate. The sock knit along does start on the 15th, which is tomorrow, Sunday. And she had asked several dyers to contribute yarns to the Sock School project. That was myself of Highland Handmades, Stephen of Leading Men Fiber Arts. Sorry, Stephen, I was going to name a podcast. And Stacy of Mustache. And so we each did our own colorways, which you could purchase as well. This was mine. It's called Freedom Calls, which is the first 2 words of the New Adventures of Pippi Longstocking. I don't remember if it was a TV show or a movie from when I was a kid. And as soon as Annie told me that she was doing a Pippi Longstocking themed kit, I was like, Pippi Longstocking is coming into your world. It's in here. I don't know where I park my car most days or where my cell phone is, but I know all the words of the Pippi Longstocking frickin' theme song in my head. So this is the first 2 words of the song, so I called that. It is kettle dyed a light blue, and then immersion or direct dyed, just sprinkling dye on in various colors that match one of the Bold and Brave fabric from Annie Light Knits. I have sold out of those. I had 40 skeins in the shop. 40 is about all I can do while I'm dyeing for a show, so that's a day's dyeing. And that yarn, I had some in stock, and those were shipped out, and the rest should be here, I believe, on Monday the 16th. So I will dye those probably Tuesday and have them in the mail on Wednesday. The knit along does go until July 31st, so even if you don't have your yarn on May 15th, you should have it in plenty of time to knit a pair of socks by the end of the cow. And I think you can see the sock yarn fits in there quite well. I'm going to print the pattern and put that in there as well. Annie also, with her projects, includes some of the best add-ons ever. So this is her Little Skein in the Big Wool, and it says handmade in San Francisco. She's literally on the opposite side of the country. There are little stitch markers, which are jump rings, but also there's one on the end that says Brave. And they're pink and green, so they match. But that's not even it. She sent me the cutest little, sorry for the wax paper crinkling. She sent me the cutest little gauge ruler. You probably can't see that because I have autofocus off. But it's a bamboo burnout, and it says Bold and Brave, and it has Pippi and some knitting and a flower, a whale, more flowers, fish, Pippi, a little tiny Pippi here with a monkey, and then there's another monkey down here, a ball of yarn, a horse, and another sunflower. It's really cute. And this is a 1-inch square, so you can put it down on your knitting and count how many rows and stitches per inch you've got, which is important in sock knitting. Annie's shop is littleskein.com, and you can still purchase stuff for her kit as far as I'm aware. She has several different bag fabrics. She has a sock school fabric as tote bags, as well as specific Pippi Longstocking ones. She has yarn that's designed for to go with the kit as well from Cupcake Yarns? Is that what it's from? I don't want to get that wrong. Let me check. Littleskein.com. Sorry, this is dead air. I apologize, but I don't want to tell you the wrong thing. Okay, so shop for school supplies. Bold and Brave. Okay, so the Bold and Brave pre-order all options. It is Fierce Freckled Friend, that sock pattern. So there's 2 colorways of sock. One is a self-striping and one is a speckled yarn. And those yarns come from Two Sisters Yarn Company. So I'm sorry. It's Two Sisters Yarn Company, and Fingering Weight is the Big Sky base. It does say that if you want to knit the knee socks, you're going to need 2 skeins. But it's a Pippi. They're both Pippi-inspired colorways, and they're from Two Sisters Yarn Company. So check that out if you haven't, littleskein.com. Annie does amazing, amazing work. She was who I worked with for the Susan Claudino Wild Thing Monster kits, where Susan designed this adorable little monster from inspired by Where the Wild Things Are, and Annie did a beautiful bag that had the wild rumpus happening and sunset with knitting fabric in the back. It was amazing. Annie works with artists to develop one-of-a-kind colorways, fabric that you can't buy anywhere else. So it's not like everybody's going to Joann and getting the same Marvel fabric. Annie pays an artist to create a specific and exclusive fabric. Annie is just thebomb.com. So check that out if you haven't. So that's really Grabby Hands and Processes, or Growth, I should say. Growth, because that was a very good experience for me. I sold off 40 skeins quite quickly. And Grabby Hands, because you can still get it if you want. The sock totes, sock school totes, as well as the rest of the Pippi stuff, they're all available on littleskein.com. So, except for my yarn, which is also available. All right. This has been a long episode. I think I'm pretty much done. And thank you all for putting up with me, including this chaotic mess behind me. That's the life of the dyer. I have things all over the place. You can see there's my ink loom. Next to it, can you see right there is my blending board. That coffee mug on the other side says, I'd rather DYE dye than knit with generic yarn. That's a Bet Gussler knit poster from Guzzler Design. There's a record that's all bent up there. That's from Fiber Addiction Emily. I keep all the cool stuff for my friends here. Like, people who send me postcards and gift me things, and the things that make me happy, in addition to all the stuff that I need for work. Down here are some of my project bags, which I have all hanging empty and ready for me when I start a new project. And I start a lot of projects. Don't finish anything. But yeah, it's all kind of a mess. That's supposed to be all cleaned off. Maybe I'll work on that this weekend. Maybe not. Well, guys, let me know if you like this setup here better, or if you prefer me to be back out in my less chaotic living room. If you want to chat with me, you can email me at heather@highlandhandmades.com or highlandhandmades@gmail.com. You can find the shop at shops@highlandhandmades.com. I'm Fiberista Files on Twitter and Instagram. I do not check direct messages, pretty much. So if you want to get in touch with me, email is the best option. You can find the podcast, like I said, at iTunes, Internet Archive, YouTube, and thefibristafiles.com. I do try to do a thread update in my Ravelry group, which is Highland Handmades, so you can check that out there. I'm really inconsistent about that, but usually somebody in the group will post it if there is an update. I did have somebody recently tell me that their iTunes did not show that I had a new episode, the last episode. I'm not in control of iTunes. I don't know why it does that. I do check iTunes to make sure that the podcast uploads, at least for me, before I walk away from the computer. So maybe update your iTunes if you haven't in a little while. Also, feel free to leave me a review or a star rating. I don't often ask for that because I don't do this for reviews. I do it just to give you guys information and to record sort of my progress through the fibery life. But it does help other people, new people, find the podcast. So consider that if you're an iTunes viewer. I guess that's all I've got for you this week. Sorry for the length and the choppiness. I hope you understand. Until next time, happy spinning and knitting, and thanks for tuning in.